Steve Denton, CEO of Opendorse. Thanks for being here with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me. What an exciting time here on Radio Row.
I know. So we're almost 5 years kind of into this era where college athletes are able to profit off their name, image, and likeness. I'm wondering, how has the marketplace evolved over this time?
This is a great question because if you roll the clock back 5 years, college athletes were making nothing.
Yeah.
Last year they made $2 billion, and by the end of the decade they're going to be making $6 billion. So you think about an industry that's gone from 0 to $6 billion in a decade, and that's just what the athletes are getting paid. I mean, that is like, the closest analogy I have is like internet 98, 99, when I had an internet company in New York. No regulations back then, no Google back then, and so it launched off. And you've seen house settlement come into place, so now the schools can pay the athletes directly up to $20.5 million, but that's a cap. So third-party brand NIL deals are really important, and that was about $1.6 billion of the $2 billion last year. So brands are recognizing the athletes for their influence and their fandom and working with them to monetize that.
You've touched on a couple different themes there, and I want to kind of get to those, but
sure.
I guess the characterization of it being the Wild West is something that's thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
It feels like we're still in that phase. Are we getting to any point where this will no longer be this Wild West type atmosphere?
I think we're getting close, right?
Yeah.
With the house settlement, you put the cap on the schools. Like you can only pay, and you can pay as a school. Third-party NIL deals now have to go through NIL Go, which is regulated by Deloitte, right? So fair market value comes into place. So, no longer could a kid go to a car dealership for 30 minutes on a Sunday and get paid $250,000 to do that. So fair market value and having to pass NIL Go scrutiny is important. A cap on what the schools can pay is important. And I think, look, there's always going to be unintended consequences, but I think we've made good steps forward. But what I love about it is the fair market value. I think about that influencer economy being $35 billion and where these college athletes are. I think that's all upside for them.
I guess, the question that pops in my head is, where does NIL collectives fit into all this? Because you're right, like we have the house settlement where you can pay players directly and it's capped. Yeah. You have kind of the typical brand deals, but then you have these collectives who are organizing and bringing players to the universities that they are aligned with, and they're not really brand endorsements, so how does that fit into this marketplace?
Collectives are always a little tricky, right? Because until the schools could pay, a lot of that work was being done by the collectives.
Yeah.
Hey, we need a quarterback. Let's go get a quarterback. And we'll put these deals together. So a lot of that collective money did shift back to the schools, to pay the athletes directly, but they're rebuilding.
Yeah.
Right? The collectives are rebuilding. They're made up typically of, alumni and boosters who are successful business people, and they're putting those dollars to work to augment the cap.
Yeah.
Right? So that's always something you got to navigate, but here's the thing. Those deals have to go through NIL Go.
Are we going to see them just completely kind of dissipate as the regulation increases?
I think what you're going to see is, because that's the newest part of it, right? Collectives funded the early part of NIL. Now you're starting to see the third-party brands do a lot of that, and that's fair market value. So I think as you see athletes with their conversion metrics, the impression counts, right, the efficacy of their social lift up, you're going to see that fair market value go up.
Yeah.
Because it's very measurable.
Yeah.
The hard one is in-store, right? In-store appearances, that's the real hard one to put value on, but the social stuff is easy because you get all the fan metrics.
What makes that so difficult, though?
I don't know how many people were going to come by your car dealership. I mean, you can compare it, but that deal's done in advance. So if you and I do an NIL deal, typically I'll pay you X to do this, and when you complete it, you get paid.
Yeah.
So if we start putting performance metrics on that,
it gets a little dicier.
It could get dicier, but at the same time, it actually might make it more legitimate.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Let's talk about Opendorse specifically a little bit. Obviously, company that was one of the first movers, early adopters of this space. A couple of years in, do you feel like you're still in that position? Do you feel like it's more competitive? And obviously, there are a lot of NIL marketplaces that pop up across this. So how do you feel about your standing in the market?
Well, we're the market leader, right? I mean, we've got 320 schools that buy our platform for compliance and reporting and make it available to their athletes. We got 200,000 athletes on the platform with their bank accounts connected and their socials connected. And candidly, we moved a little bit over $200 million through our payment vehicles last year in contracting to these athletes.
Yeah.
And we saw another $300 million in disclosures. So with a market that's, call it $2 billion last year, we see a fourth of it. Collectives make up a big part of that. We don't see a ton of that. I mean, we're the market leader. And I think what keeps us in that place is the things we think about, right? Which are taxes. Like we just sent out tens and tens of thousands of 1099s, right? That went to these kids. A lot of these fly-by-night companies don't do that, right? Like a lot of the NIL guys that pop up, it's in one school, they know a couple of people, they get going. But I think the thing we do that differentiates us is if a brand's gonna fund a campaign, they prepay it.
Yeah.
So when the athlete completes the activity, the brand satisfaction, the funds are released. So I don't deal with athletes who are like, I did a deal and I didn't get paid.
Yeah, yeah.
And that keeps things nice and clean.
So walk me through kind of what a typical deal looks like on the platform, because
sure.
I guess, my assumption would be that kind of the bigger stars of college sports, work solely through agents, and kind of the middle and lower end athletes who need to kind of find these deals end up kind of matching on these platforms. Is that correct? And what do the deals actually look like?
Yes and no. So yeah, the unicorns, the 5% of the NIL deals that are over $500,000.
The Fernando Mendozas of the world.
Yeah. Carson Beck, right? Livy Dunn back in the day, Juju Watkins, Arch Manning. I mean, they've had agents probably since they were in 8th grade, right? And agents are putting deals together for them, but they still got to run it through a platform.
Yeah.
So, like, we have athletes that run those deals through our platform for compliance purposes and reporting. So you still need to do it. So we'll see it, but only 4% of all NIL, only 4% of athletes are making over in commercial NIL. $500,000 a year. 50% of all NIL deals are under 50 grand a year.
Yeah.
And 30% of that is under 10. Like the average NIL deal is $1,500.
Yeah.
So everybody likes to clickbait and the sexiness of, the Warby Parker deal or the Viore deal, and they're great deals and they're great brands. But the average NIL deal is like in that $1,500 range.
Yeah.
Somebody's doing something. So what would an average deal look like? Where'd you go to school?
SUNY Albany in upstate New York.
Right on. So you're there, local pizza joint wants you to do 4 Instagram posts and an in-store appearance. It's $1,500. You record it, it gets approved, and you show up and you make $1,500. That is a very typical NIL deal. More sexy, we just did a deal with Meta. They wanted to promote Facebook. They wanted to relaunch Facebook groups.
Yeah.
So they want to do it around rivalry weekend. So we Auburn, Alabama, right? And Michigan, Ohio State. And we had athletes on those campuses that were promoting Facebook groups. And it was a good amount of money put to work against that campaign. And, those average deals were like 25 grand. So it's all over the place.
Yeah.
Nanos, micros, macros.
It makes sense. You obviously have a tech background, touched on that a little bit before. I'm curious, how does that impact kind of Opendorse? Are you guys trying to become more of an advantageous company based on your tech? Is it more just kind of the market share you have already? How are you maintaining this advantage?
I think the key, I don't want to drop the AI there, but I don't think you can talk about tech without talking about AI, right?
Not these days.
If you are, I don't know you're in tech,
yeah.
Right? Like, what's the sense of having a proprietary data set if you're not going to put AI learning against it?
Yeah.
So for us, the big thing is, we've got 200,000 athletes on our platform. There's 500,000 college athletes, 500 million social followers. Like, how do you make that easy for brands to do business with those athletes? And think about that like a programmatic media buy.
Yeah.
Because really the goal is you've got a budget, you've got an audience, you've got metrics, you want to hit them. What athletes should you work with? How much should you pay them? And what should you expect? Like that, because we're in sports because our supply are athletes. But if my supply side were, I don't know, mommy bloggers, I'd be in a different business, right? I mean, we're just in sports because our supply side are athletes. Yeah. But the same media metrics apply. So how do you turn that into a programmatic media buy so that brands can buy that at scale versus everything being one-off?
Yeah.
I think that's the key to turning it. And one last thing I'll give you, which I think is fascinating, if you strip out what the schools pay the athletes, and you just go brand dollars.
Yeah.
Like, what is Procter and Gamble? What is Bounty? What do they think these athletes are worth? For every dollar spent against athletes, female student athletes earn 58 cents.
Really?
They actually out-earn their male counterparts when it comes to brand dollars. And there's a whole host of reasons for it. Higher engagement metrics, better content, and actually not as expensive either. So you can put your brand dollars to work and you can get more athletes, which is more posts, more impressions. So it's actually the great equalizer. NIL has this really interesting thing, which is great equalizer for non-revenue producing sports,
I guess,
especially women's sports.
Just understanding the mechanics of that further, is that kind of when you sort of like line things up one-to-one? Because the assumption is based on, men's college football, men's college basketball, that's where all the money is. And obviously
that's what the schools pay.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm wondering, like, women's basketball is where we see the highest kind of NIL rates. Is that correct?
So I'm separating, right? Not to weed it out, but like what the schools pay goes by rev share.
Yeah.
85% of the money going to men's football, right? 10% going to men's basketball, 4% going to women's. I mean, that's your normal. But when I look at brands going to spend $1 for brand equity and promotions.
Yeah.
Female student athletes are getting 58 cents. And it doesn't matter what sport.
Yeah. Interesting. I guess one thing I want to bring up here, and it's kind of inevitable when you're talking about college sports these days, is the idea of the moving goalposts of eligibility.
Yeah.
I mean, the two very kind of notable cases we've seen are Charles Bediako going back to Alabama, and now Amari Bailey suing the NCAA to go back to college after playing in NBA games.
Yeah.
How do you think about that in terms of NIL, and how is that going to change the market?
So, thank goodness I don't have to think about that a lot, right? That's someone else's job.
Yeah.
Because whether they're a college athlete or a pro or they're eligible or not, like brand value, their brand value is going to work for an advertiser based on that. But like, I think the next thing you're going to see is if the schools are using state funds to pay college athletes, why am I getting kicked out?
Yeah.
I mean, that's age discrimination.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I get like, hey, if you can't get a degree in 5 years, we can't keep giving you a scholarship. But if you want to come back here at 30 and pay your own way and play ball here and we'll pay you.
Yeah.
Like, I think you're going to see that. I think that's the next battleground, right? Which for the NCAA, which is you're limiting my ability to earn because you're aging me out.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
I think you'll see an age discrimination lawsuit soon. And thank God I'm not involved in that.
I guess kind of looking ahead, what do you see as kind of the future of NIL and how this market's going to continue to evolve? Because I guess if you asked a lot of people 5 years ago what it would look like today, I don't think they would have been able to kind of pick out how it is.
Absolutely not. I don't think, when I tell people they're going to be making $6 billion by the end of the decade, which is more than NHL players are making, I think that surprises a lot of people. But it's revenue, right, from the program. So I think what you'll see is the salary caps are going to escalate with natural escalators when the rev share resets, and they'll be paying out about $32 million a year to the students.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see the whole thing. Are they employees? Are they contractors? That'll get sorted out.
Yeah.
And then I think the brand value of these athletes will only continue to go up because that influencer market is big. And influencers have followers, and these athletes have fans. And I got to tell you, like, when you look at the micro and the nano, their conversion metrics are through the roof.
Yeah.
And aggregating that, I think you're really going to see that value go up, what they get paid per post, what they get paid, and the efficacy for the advertiser. So why separate it? I always look at the landscape like, where are the collectives going to be?
Yeah.
Where are the schools going to be? And then how do we make these kids more marketable for the brands?
Well, let me ask you, obviously, kind of on the subject of whether it makes sense to go pro or play in college sports now, if you're not playing in one of these major sports leagues, does it make sense to be aligned with a brand in college if you're kind of trying to lure in marketers and brands?
Right. Well, I think college baseball, I think men's baseball is a great example.
Yeah.
Right.
But why go to the minor leagues if you could?
If you're not a first or second round draft pick, what are you going to make?
Yeah.
And I'm not minimizing the number, but like if you're going deep, you're going to be lucky if you're making 30 grand, 40 grand a year.
Yeah.
You could be playing baseball at LSU or Coastal Carolina or Florida and making 75, 100 grand a year.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to keep some of these kids in school longer. Like even look at like quarterbacks. If you're, like, you look at the league minimum, I mean, you look at a quarterback making $3 million a year playing, because the average quarterback's making 2.9 to 4 million a year in P4. Unless you're going to be like a first or fourth round draft pick, you're not seeing that on your rookie deal.
Yeah.
You might stick around.
Yeah.
I think it's going to keep some kids in school longer that aren't going to go high draft picks.
Last thing, where do you want Opendorse to push going forward? How do you see the future of the company?
I want Opendorse to continue to be like the white hat, and like let's look after these kids as best we can. Let's be compliant. Let's facilitate the right payments and do the right things. But I really want Opendorse to be able to show advertisers the true value of these athletes as part of their marketing campaigns, make them better influencers, make them better marketers, and allow them to truly monetize that name, image, and likeness, because that's what it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Monetize your name, image, and likeness. So that's how do we make that easier for brands to buy and engage these athletes? Because I love it when I sit down with a kid and they tell me about the $500 they made that helped them make a car payment. That's NIL doing its job.
Yeah. Steve Denton, thanks for being here with us.
I appreciate you. Thank you.